When the Biden administration assumed power, there were many in our country who predicted a rupture in the India-US relations. It was believed in certain circles that the Biden administration would come down hard on India on a variety of issues. The Biden administration would do that, it was believed, because of India's perceived poor track record on civil and democratic dissent issues. The fact that Mr. Modi was seen as a Trump acolyte who had given the clarion call of Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar at the Houston Jamboree added to the belief. Yet, more than 6 months down the line after Mr. Biden was sworn to presidency, the exact opposite has happened. The Indo-US relations are on an upswing like never before, and the engagement today in both civil and defense matters is even better than during the Trump era. Now, there is a reason why this is happening, and I will explain that to you point by point in this episode. Hi, and welcome all to the CAA show. My name is Juggi Bhasin. CAA is, of course, conversations and analysis. So, before we decipher the unexpected of the expected, let us understand a few home truths about the United States. America is a great democracy, but it is even a greater transactional power. It works on the principle of, I will do this for you, but what can you do for me? Even in the early 60s, when under the PL 480 program, America gave us wheat to tide over our food shortage, it did it on the assumption that its generosity would pave the way for greater American goodwill in India, and that the US would play a significant role in India's development, which would eventually benefit both countries. That, unfortunately, did not happen because of the socialistic mindset of our then ruling class. The tide started turning under the stewardship of Dr. Manmohan Singh, who understood that engagement with the US could become the defining relationship of the new century. The process is now in full throttle mode under the BJP dispensation because its middle-class constituency roots for the US. And neither the liberal woke on their side nor the left liberal on our side can derail the process. But apart from the shared democratic values and the success of the Indian diaspora in America, there are real reasons why the two countries are coming closer to each other. The Americans have or are in the process of completely withdrawing from Afghanistan. They know the geostrategic importance of Afghanistan has gone up in smoke because the Afghan government and the Taliban will be locked in a fierce battle for quite some time. Despite media reports, Kabul is still out of reach of the Taliban. It is therefore very likely that America, through air power, will continue to prop up the current regime, and short of boots on the ground, it will not let the regime fall to the Taliban. And that is where India comes in. America needs India to support and shore up the current regime in Kabul. India will certainly not deploy boots on the ground, but there is a possibility that America might ask India to complement its air power for both a defensive and offensive role in Afghanistan. The Americans know if they vacate this space completely, the Chinese, the Iranians, and of course the Pakistanis will move in fast. And this region will remain out of bound for the US and may even become a training ground for future aggression against the United States. India, unlike a recent Global Times story, will be listening to the US because it has assets worth billions of dollars in Afghanistan, which can fall in the wrong hands. India also wants to keep Pakistan out of the Afghanistan theater of action. India and the US could join hands to keep status quo. But the real convergence between US and India is taking place in the strategic sea lanes in the Indian Ocean and South China Sea. Now, these areas are the new areas of geostrategic significance. They have eclipsed the significance of Pakistan and Afghanistan as areas of importance. We know that the Malacca Straits is the main shipping channel between the Indian Ocean and all major Asian economies. The US does not want to see Chinese Navy dominate these crucial sea routes. Ditto for Japan, Philippines, Australia, and other maritime nations facing threats from China. The US wants India by its side in a show of strength in this region because India is the only country after China that comes close to having a blue water navy. The principle of joint patrolling of sea lanes by Quad members works on the principles of all for one, one for all. During the height of the Cold War, America rushed Pershing nuclear warheads to West Germany to send a message to the then Soviet Union of so far and no further. Something similar is in the offing between Quad members. But the question which needs to be asked is that why will India agree to the changing world order? Firstly, the Chinese threat to India cannot be minimized. We all saw what happened during the Galwan clashes. Now, my sources tell me that the way India responded and stood up to the Chinese has deeply impressed the Americans. They know the real deal to providing the bulwark in this part of the world against Chinese expansionism is India. India, on the other hand, needs US technology, air and naval support because the Chinese are slowly encircling India by setting up maritime bases in Sri Lanka and Pakistan. They're trying to nibble away at our territory in Ladakh. We also need a show of hands to tell the Chinese that these are our friends, so beware. I mentioned earlier the transactional nature of US politics. Now we forget that Joe Biden was pilloried by Kamala Harris in the Democratic presidential debates, and yet he chose the same Kamala Harris to be his vice president because she brings unique strengths to the table. The same principle applies to the Modi-Biden relationship. Mr. Biden is perfectly aware that Mr. Modi gave the call for Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar. But he is also perfectly aware, to quote a line from the movie Godfather, that it's nothing personal, but strictly business. The world changed after 9/11, we all know that. And now the world has changed again after the COVID pandemic. The Americans are not likely to forget or forgive the Chinese role in it. It would not be a stretch to say that the Americans would be looking to move out their technology and pharma lines, their manufacturing bases out of China in the foreseeable future. At the same time, they would not be comfortable or welcoming the Chinese into high-tech industries in America. And not to forget, they need yearly infusions of body shop tech workers to upgrade their industries and keep them at the top of their game. Now, which country do you think can fill these gaps as the Chinese will be forced to withdraw from all these areas that matter to the US? India, of course. India knows this, and hence, despite all the muted, discordant noise over Kashmir and organized protests, etc., both countries know which way the wind blows. The high-achieving, steadily growing Indian diaspora in the United States also ensures that the relationship between the two countries does not slide. It's a win-win for both sides. So, goodbye on that note, and keep watching this channel. Do subscribe to us, and I will see you soon next time with another interesting episode.